The county health office sent a letter to my grandmother's kitchen in 1962. It listed several things she cooked with that were dangerous, outdated, and needed to stop. She set the letter on the shelf above the cook stove and never mentioned it again. Every single thing that letter condemned, the food scientists have since proved she was right about. Here are 25 of them. Before the list, 3 things worth knowing. Number 14 on this list is a fat she rendered from scratch that the American Heart Association spent 40 years saying would stop your heart. It did not. The fat they sold her as a replacement quietly did. Number 8 is a pot she kept simmering all week that the Nutrition Board called a contamination risk. Researchers who measured what was actually in it called it a superfood and started selling it in jars for $15. And number 1, she would not have called a trick at all. It is the reason everything else on this list existed. Let us count them down. Number 25, bacon grease in a can on the stove. Every piece of meat that came through her kitchen left something behind. She strained it hot into the same coffee can all week, and that was her cooking fat. The health authorities told her generation to pour it out and buy seed oils. What the scientists found? Rendered animal fat is stable at high heat. The seed oils that replaced it oxidize when heated and produce harmful compounds. The dietary researchers who built the case against animal fat have since been shown to have suppressed data that contradicted them. She was never wrong. Here is how you do it. Keep a clean can by the stove, strain the grease hot through a cloth, cover it, and cook your eggs and cornbread in it. It keeps a solid month. Number 24, cold butter, cold buttermilk, cold hands. Anytime a biscuit or crust was coming, she chilled everything. The cooking schools called it unnecessary. The science shows fat needs to stay in cold, discrete pieces through the flour so the water inside flashes to steam in the hot oven and blows the layers apart. Warm fat smears in, no steam forms, and the result is dense and flat. Here's how you do it. Freeze your butter 30 minutes before cutting it in. If the dough goes warm under your palm, put it in the refrigerator 10 minutes before you continue. Number 23, barely touch the biscuit dough. She cut the fat in, wet it, brought it together, and stopped. 10 seconds and no more. The recipe cards told her to knead it properly. The food scientists proved overworking is the number 1 reason a biscuit turns out like a hockey puck. Work flour with water and you build gluten, which is exactly what you want in bread and exactly what ruins a biscuit. Here's how you do it. Mix just until the dough holds, then cut and run for the oven. Number 22, the pot that never emptied. On the back of her stove sat a stock pot simmering all week. Every chicken carcass, ham hock, and bone went in with a splash of vinegar. The public health officials called it a contamination risk. Researchers who measured properly maintained bone broth found the opposite. The long, slow acid simmer pulls collagen from joints into gelatin and draws calcium and trace minerals into the liquid. The companies now selling bone broth as a superfood for $15 a carton are selling what she made for nothing from what everyone else threw away. Here's how you do it. Save your bones, simmer them with a splash of apple cider vinegar for at least 8 hours, strain, and refrigerate. It should set firm when cold. Number 21, coffee in the chocolate cake. She poured a 1/4 cup of cold leftover coffee into every chocolate cake. Town bakers said it was what poor women did when they could not afford good chocolate. The flavor chemists found the mechanism. Coffee and cocoa share volatile aroma compounds, and coffee amplifies the perceived intensity of chocolate flavor 2 to 3 times. It does not taste like coffee. It makes the chocolate taste more like chocolate. Every serious pastry kitchen adds it now. Here's how you do it. Replace a 1/4 cup of the liquid in any chocolate cake with cold leftover coffee. Do not brew fresh. Cold and leftover is the whole point. Number 20, buttermilk in everything that bakes. She always had buttermilk because she was always churning butter, and it went into her biscuits, cornbread, pancakes, and chicken soak. The baking powder companies said her old sour way was unreliable. Here's what they did not say. Baking powder is simply baking soda with dry acid mixed in, sold back to her for money. Buttermilk supplies that same acid naturally, plus it partially breaks down gluten before the baking begins, producing a noticeably more tender crumb. Gone Sharp buttermilk works better than fresh. Here's how you do it. Substitute buttermilk for sweet milk and add a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda per cup. Do not pour out a jug gone sour. Number 19, vinegar in the pie crust. She added 1 teaspoon of plain white vinegar to every pie crust. The science shows acetic acid inhibits gluten development, producing a more tender crust that tolerates more handling. The sour bakes off completely. Here's how you do it. 1 teaspoon of plain white vinegar in the cold water, no more. Too much cider vinegar will survive the oven and you will taste it. Number 18, salt in every sweet thing. Every cake, cobbler, candy, and pie she made got a pinch of salt with the sugar. The sensory scientists have since measured what salt does on the tongue. It suppresses the perception of bitter compounds while enhancing sweet ones. A pinch of salt does not make a dessert taste salty. It makes the sweet taste stronger and the flavor more vivid without a single additional grain of sugar. Leave it out and the result tastes flat. Here's how you do it. Add a good pinch of salt to every sweet batter, stirred in with the dry ingredients. Here's one mistake most people are making right now. You are salting your soup beans at the beginning of cooking. She salted hers only at the end, after hours of simmering. Food scientists have proved why. Salt added early to dried beans causes the pectin in the skins to firm and bond with calcium in the cooking water, which prevents the skins from ever fully softening. The beans cook for hours and come out chalky regardless of how long you go. Salt them only when they are already tender. Number 17. Sourdough kept alive on the shelf. On the back of her stove sat a crock of wild starter, fed every few days and used for bread 2 or 3 times a week. The commercial yeast companies said wild starter was unreliable. What the science found: the long fermentation in sourdough breaks down phytic acid in the flour, the compound that binds minerals and prevents absorption. Sourdough bread delivers more available iron, zinc, and magnesium than the same flour made with commercial yeast, and it produces a lower blood sugar response. She was baking the nutritionally superior product. Here's how you do it. Mix equal weights of flour and water in a jar. Feed it fresh flour and water daily. In 5 to 7 days, you have an active culture. Feed it and it never dies. Number 16. Leather britches. She strung whole green beans on thread and hung them behind the stove for weeks until they went hard and papery. The health inspectors called it primitive. The science is plain. Drying removes free water below the threshold at which any spoilage organism can reproduce. No jar, no processing, no refrigeration needed. Here's how you do it. Thread whole green beans on cotton string, hang somewhere dry with moving air, and give them 3 to 4 weeks. Soak overnight before cooking. Number 15. Corn and beans eaten together. She served soup beans and cornbread at the same meal her entire life. The Nutrition Board considered it poor people's food with no scientific basis. The protein scientists found otherwise. Corn is deficient in lysine, an essential amino acid. Beans are deficient in methionine. Eaten together, they provide a complete amino acid profile neither provides alone. Populations across the Americas figured this out independently thousands of years before nutritional science could explain it. Here's how you do it. Eat cornbread and soup beans at the same meal. That is the entire instruction. Number 14. Lard for everything. She rendered her own lard every autumn and used it for frying, baking, and pie crust. The margarine companies spent a fortune telling her generation that lard stopped hearts and their factory product was health food. The food scientists have since cleared lard completely. Rendered pork fat is approximately 45% monounsaturated fat, the same type found in olive oil, and it is stable at frying temperatures. The margarine they sold her contained trans fats that clinical research has since proved increase cardiovascular risk. Lard does not contain trans fats. The fat they condemned was safe. The fat they sold her was not. Here's how you do it. Render pork fat in small pieces over very low heat, never letting it scorch, strain it clean while hot, and save the cracklings for cornbread. Here is a second mistake most kitchens are making right now. You are washing your cast iron skillet with dish soap. She washed hers with hot water and a stiff brush, dried it on a hot burner immediately, and rubbed it with a trace of lard while still warm. Dish soap is designed to break down fat. The seasoning on a cast iron skillet is polymerized fat that has bonded to the iron through heat. Wash it with soap and you are dissolving what makes it non-stick and rust resistant. Never let it air dry either. Iron begins to oxidize the moment water sits on it. Number 13. Sorghum molasses in the cake batter. She stirred a spoonful of sorghum into certain cakes where neighbors would not expect it. The flavor scientists found the mechanism. Molasses compounds bind to sweet receptors differently than sugar, producing perceived depth of flavor sucrose alone cannot achieve. It also contains iron, calcium, and potassium absent in refined sugar. Here is how you do it. Replace 1 tablespoon of sugar with 1 tablespoon of unsulfured sorghum. The sweet will taste more complex. Number 12. Pot liquor on the cornbread. She never poured off the water that greens, beans, or potatoes cooked in. The nutrition men told her the goodness was in the vegetable and the water was waste. What they missed: water-soluble vitamins, iron, and minerals leach out of vegetables into the cooking liquid during the boiling process. The nutrition scientists have since measured it and confirmed that pot liquor from cooked greens contains more of certain nutrients than the greens themselves after cooking. She sopped it up with cornbread rather than pouring it out. Here's how you do it. Save your greens water, your bean water, your potato water. Drink a cup warm, use it for soup, or sop it with cornbread. Number 11. The screaming skillet for cornbread. Her cast iron skillet sat in a hot oven with grease in it until the grease was near to smoking before the batter ever went in. The home economics teacher said heating an empty pan was reckless. That scream when the batter hit is the whole trick. Batter hitting metal that hot sets the crust in an instant. The sugars in the cornmeal toast at that temperature through what food scientists now call the Maillard reaction, producing a flavor that a pan coming up slowly from cold never achieves. Here's how you do it. Put your greased iron skillet in the oven while it preheats. When the grease is near to smoking, pour the batter in. You will hear it. That sound is your crust. Number 10. Rendered fat for cast iron. She seasoned her skillets with lard, not the specialty conditioners sold today. The chemistry: lard polymerizes onto iron at oven temperatures into a stable, non-tacky layer that improves with decades of use. The flaxseed oil promoted by modern cast iron enthusiasts produces a brittle layer that chips. Here's how you do it. Wipe your skillet with the thinnest possible layer of lard and bake it upside down at 375 degrees for an hour. Repeat 6 times. Number 9. Buttermilk-Soaked for fried chicken. She soaked her chicken in sharp buttermilk overnight before frying. The recipe card said marinating was for expensive cuts and unnecessary on chicken. The food scientists know what the lactic acid in buttermilk does to poultry. It partially denatures the surface proteins of the meat and disrupts the muscle fiber structure, allowing moisture to be retained during frying and producing a noticeably more tender interior. The same acid creates a surface texture that holds the flour coating better than unseasoned meat. Here's how you do it. Cover your chicken pieces in buttermilk, refrigerate overnight, dredge in seasoned flour, and fry in lard at 350 degrees. Number 8. Apple cider vinegar in everything. She added a splash of apple cider vinegar to bone broth, to the chicken's water in summer, to certain brines, and to her hair rinse. The doctors called it folk remedy nonsense. The microbiologists have since characterized the active compounds in raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar: acetic acid, which inhibits bacterial growth, pectin from the apple solids, and the mother, a colony of beneficial bacteria and enzymes. The research on acetic acid's effect on blood sugar response, the inhibition of harmful bacteria in food preservation, and its use in reducing mineral scale in hard water has all confirmed what she understood through practice. Here's how you do it. Use raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar with the mother visible in the bottom of the bottle. Distilled white vinegar does not carry the same properties. Number 7. Sour milk is a baking ingredient. When milk turned, she baked with it. The Food Safety Board said throw it out. The chemistry: naturally soured milk develops lactic acid through fermentation, the same acid in buttermilk. That acid reacts with baking soda to produce leavening gas and tenderize the crumbs simultaneously. Naturally soured milk before spoilage is a functional baking acid. Here's how you do it. Use it exactly as you would buttermilk. Smell it first. Sour is fine. Putrid is different. Number 6. Reading heat by hand and pinch. She had no thermometer. She tested frying fat with a pinch of cornmeal dropped in and watched what it did. The equipment seller said guessing by feel was how a cook poisoned her family. The food scientists measured it and found she was hitting frying temperature within a few degrees through the cornmeal test alone. Cornmeal that sinks, too cold. Cornmeal that dances and browns slowly, correct temperature. Cornmeal that scorches, too hot. Here's how you do it. Drop a pinch of cornmeal in the hot fat before anything else. Read what it does. Number 5. Lacto-Fermented Vegetables in a crock. Her mother kept vegetables in a stone crock under salt brine, a plate and creek rock holding them under the liquid. The Food Safety Board branded it dangerous and pushed commercial canning. The fermentation scientists have since come entirely around. The salt holds off harmful bacteria long enough for wild lactobacillus to acidify the brine below pH 4.6, at which point nothing harmful can survive. The process they called dangerous is now called one of the safest preservation methods available. Here's how you do it. Pack vegetables in a crock, cover in salt brine, weight them under a plate. The one law: nothing rises above the brine. Number 4. Larding lean, wild meat. Venison comes off the fire dry and tough because wild animals carry almost no intramuscular fat. She threaded thin strips of fat back through the lean roast with a needle before cooking. The hunting culture called it unnecessary fussing. The meat science is plain. The threaded fat melts as the roast cooks and basts the lean meat from within, preventing the moisture loss that causes toughness. Here's how you do it. Thread thin strips of fat back through a lean wild roast before cooking, then cook it low and slow. Number 3. Blackstrap molasses through winter. She gave the children a spoon of blackstrap molasses in warm water every night through the cold months. The doctor called it superstition. The nutrition scientists measured it differently. Blackstrap molasses contains more calcium per tablespoon than a glass of milk, significant iron, magnesium, potassium, and B vitamins. In a household eating cornmeal and dried beans through a long winter with no fresh vegetables, she was addressing real nutritional deficiencies in a form children would willingly take. Here's how you do it. 1 tablespoon of blackstrap specifically, not regular molasses, stirred into warm water. Number 2. Cornbread and buttermilk in a glass. The plainest thing her people ate. Cold cornbread crumbled into a glass, buttermilk poured over, eaten with a spoon. The nutrition board considered it what poor mountain people ate for lack of knowing any better. The protein scientists found otherwise. Corn is deficient in lysine and buttermilk supplies it. Buttermilk is deficient in the specific carbohydrate fuel that cornmeal provides. The two together constitute a nutritionally complete meal in a way neither achieves separately. Nobody in that kitchen had heard the word protein. They just knew it held you till morning. Here's how you do it. Crumble cold cornbread into a glass of buttermilk and eat it with a spoon. Your grandchildren will think it is the saddest thing they ever saw. They are wrong. Number 1. Cooking to feed whoever stands in front of you. This one she would not have called a trick. When someone knocked, she fed them. When a neighbor's family was down, she cooked and carried it over. Not because she had extra, because feeding someone is what you do when they are in front of you. The sociologists who study community resilience have found that households embedded in reciprocal food-sharing networks demonstrate measurably lower rates of food insecurity during disruptions than households of higher income that do not share. The community that fed each other survived things that isolated households with more resources did not. What she practiced as an expression of plain human decency turns out to be one of the most effective social safety structures ever documented. You cannot write it down as a recipe. But it is the reason everything else on this list mattered. Here is what the letter on the shelf above the cook stove tells you. The authorities who wrote it were not trying to harm her. Most of them genuinely believed what they were saying. They were wrong about the bacon grease. They were wrong about the lard. They were wrong about the sour milk and the crock of brine and the bones simmering all day and the sourdough starter and the leather britches. The science they relied on was incomplete, industry influenced, or simply had not been done yet. She kept cooking the way she cooked because it worked, because her mother cooked that way, and because 60 years of feeding a family is its own kind of proof. The letter never came down from the shelf. The can of bacon grease never left the stove. Subscribe because the next video covers the 25 meals that came out of this kind of kitchen and what they cost to make in a modern kitchen today. Tell me in the comments which of these 25 your grandmother also did, and which one surprised you most that the science proved right. Because the ones that surprise most people tell me exactly where to go deeper next.